Hey, Math 123, we're going to finish up the notes that we were supposed to get to last night. So the next section that we're on is ratios, unit rates, and prices. So when we have a rate, we are comparing two quantities and they can have different units. So like miles per hour. So if you go 15 miles in 6 hours, or on the interstate, you're going 60 miles per hour. So we are going to write the rate as a fraction in lowest terms. So I have 12 cups for 8 people. So here's how I would start my initial rate, and then I want to reduce that. Some people can see, oh yeah, I can just divide the top and bottom by 4 because 12 and 8 are both divisible by 4, in which case you get 3 cups for every 2 people. Those of you that would like to review calculator help, so I have 12 8, so you could use the ABC button there. Go 12 ABC 8 and hit the equal button. All right, so when you get 1.5 like this, you hit the second and the ABC button again, and that will take you into an improper fraction. So that's what it's called when you have a big number on top and a little number on bottom. We want 32 eggs for 12 servings. So if you just start off 32 ABC 12, hit your equal button. So that's 2 2/3, but you need to convert that to a fraction. So I go second ABC, hit the equal button, and that reduces down to 8/3. So I have 8 eggs is 3 servings. We want a unit rate. So the unit rate is really just so you compare things of different sizes so you can find the cost per item. So like you go to Sam's Club and you have the big package of maybe 32 toilet papers for 20 bucks, or you can go to Walmart and you can get 4 rolls for some cost. And so finding the unit price is how you can find what is the best deal. So it says determine the unit rate. And I'm going to go back up here. The unit rate always has a denominator of 1. And so basically on all these, the name of the game is I'm going to divide this. So find the unit rate of the following, round to the nearest tenth as needed. So I have 15 yards for 6 dresses. Okay, so I have 15 yards for 6 dresses. All right, so here, I'm not going to hit the ABC button. I'm going to divide because I want to get my denominator to 1. So I'm going to go 15 divided by 6 equals 2.5. So there are 2.5 yards for every 1 dress. So I have 2.5 yards per dress. On this one, I can get 38 eggs from 12 chickens. How many can I get per 1 chicken? So I have 38 divided by 12. Calculator, try not to get the glare. 38 divided by 12 is 3.1666 repeating over 1. And so it says round to the nearest tenth. So that 1 is in the 10th spot. When I look to the right, that 6 makes that 1 round up to a 2, and so therefore you get about 3.2 eggs per chicken. Find the unit price per banana. So I'm going to have the cost divided by the number of items. In this case, it is bananas. So when it says per banana, that gives you a hint that that's the number that goes on bottom. All right, so I pay $290 for 15 bananas. And when you divide 2.9 divided by 15, I get 0.193 repeating. It says round to the nearest tenth, so that 1 is in the 10th spot. I look to the right and I see a 9, and that moves that up, so that becomes 0.2. But I am talking money, and so money is always going to have to be 2 decimal places, and so this is 20 cents per banana. Find the unit price to see which one is a better deal. So I have $3.99 divided by 3, which is 1.9967. Assuming we're looking at the prior instructions that say round to the nearest tenth. So you look to that 9, that rounds that up, which in turn rounds that number up. So this one is $2 per box. Here I have 22 divided by 10, which is 2.20. So that's $2.20 per box. So the $2 box is cheaper than the $2.20 box. So option A is a better deal at $2 per box. Next page, we are going to write ratios with decimals. Write the ratio of 12.6 to 9 as a fraction in reduced form. All right, so we're going to not overcomplicate this. Fractions are division. So when you see a fraction and it wants you to change it into a decimal, the name of the game here is to just divide those two numbers. 12.6 divided by 9 equals 1.4. Determine the largest number of decimal places in the numerator and denominator. All right, so when you have a decimal, here's another way you could do it. So you could divide. I think dividing is just simply the easiest way to go. For funsies, I will show you this since it's on the notes. So it's not okay to have a decimal within a fraction. So we would like to get that decimal out of the fraction. So if you multiply the top and bottom of a fraction by the exact same number, then, because 10 divided by 10 is 1, so we're just basically multiplying it by 1. But when I do this, that moves the decimal one place to the right, and so now that's 126. Your decimal is right here when you multiply it by 10. It moves it one place to the right, and so now you have 126 over 90. So when I do this, so you can't use your ABC button. When you have a decimal, you would get some kind of an error message. But if you don't have a decimal, you could go back to the ABC button. 126 ABC 90 equals 1 2/5. I'm going to hit the second and the ABC button again, to turn it into a fraction, and that reduces to 7/5. Write it as a fraction in reduced form. Sorry, I didn't follow the instructions. My bad. I'm going to go back to this one for a sec. Okay. So I did divide. So I just need to put it into a fraction. So if you have 12.6 divided by 9, you get 1.4. I'm going to use my F to D button to change that into a fraction. So I hit second, PRB, equals, and you get 1 2/5. It doesn't want it as a mixed number, it wants it as an improper fraction. So I hit my second ABC button, equals, and I can put it into 7/5 that way. So there are several ways to do this problem. This says reduce 4 to 1.28. All right, so if you wanted to try it this way, so if you have 2 decimal places, so you're going to multiply the top and bottom by however many decimal places you see. So I see 2 decimal places. I need to multiply it by 100 because there are 2 zeros. Because when you do that, it'll move your decimal 2 places to the right. So 4 times 100 is 400. That equals 128. So in your calculator, if you go 400, ABC, 128, I get 3 1/8 on my calculator. I'm going to hit the second ABC button, and that is the same thing as 25/8. Here I have 5.6 to 3.24. The easiest way to do this, I'm going to go back to the original way because I truly would just divide and then I would play with the calculator from there. 5.6 divided by 3.24 is this number right here. It wants it as a fraction, so I'm going to hit the second F to D button, turn it into a fraction. I don't want a mixed number, I want an improper fraction, so go second ABC, and that is 140 over 81. So if it just wants it as a decimal, definitely divide. If it wants it as a fraction, I would divide and then use the F to D button to switch it into a fraction if that's what you need. We're going to write these in different units. All right, so this is what I call dimensional analysis. So just like multiplying a number by 10 over 10, that's the same thing as multiplying it by 1, because that's the same thing. 1 feet equals 12 inches. Those are the exact same thing. 3 feet equals 1 yard. That's the exact same unit of measure. So it just wants you to move it out of one unit and into another. Write the ratio of 10 feet to 690 inches in inches. So the feet, we're going to have to change that into inches. So the first thing I do is I write it as 10 feet over 1. So take every initial value you're given and put it over 1. When I multiply, I'm going to use this 1 feet equals 12 inches. And I'm trying to get it out of feet and into inches. And so when I have this ratio, I'm going to put the feet on bottom and the inches on top, because whatever unit you're trying to get it out of, it has to go in the opposite place. So that's why I put it in the denominator here. So the inches is the only unit of measure left. So when you multiply straight across, that's the same thing as 120 inches. The objective was to write a ratio of 10 feet to 690 inches. So 10 feet we learned is the same thing as 120 inches divided by 690 inches. And I'm assuming that we want a fully reduced, write the ratio in the indicated units. So I suppose it depends what the problem's asking. This could be the answer, or if it wanted it reduced, I use the ABC button, and that's the same thing as 4 inches for every 23 inches. Adam has 12 feet of rope. Adam has 180 inches. Compare it in inches. So I have to take Adam's amount of 18 feet, and I need to convert that into inches. Some of you are very intuitive, and you'll know, because sometimes on these problems you have to multiply by 12, and sometimes you have to divide by 12. So if you're very intuitive, you can probably just do it. My brain doesn't work that way, and I always write out these fractions. So 1 foot is the same thing as 12 inches. And so when I was multiplying by this number, you have to get it out of feet, and so you put it in the opposite location. So then I multiplied, and that's the same thing as 216 inches. It says write a ratio of 18 feet to 180 inches, and that would be 216 inches over 180 inches. Maybe that's the answer, or maybe they want it reduced, and that would reduce to 6/5. I have 75 feet of something, and I have 28 yards of something. Switch that into yards. All right, so this first one, this 75 feet, 75, I'm going to put that over 1. And I would like to convert that into yards. So up here I see that 3 feet equals 1 yard. So I need to get it out of feet, so therefore the feet needs to go into the denominator, and the yards is part of the numerator. So when you multiply this across, you get 75 yards divided by 3. And so in this case, we're going to have to finish dividing, and that's the same thing as 25 yards. We want to write a ratio of 75 feet to 28 yards. So that's the same thing as 25 yards divided by 28 yards. So if that's not the correct answer, it is. I tried to reduce it earlier, and that does not reduce. So that's your good final answer on that one. Okay, one more section. It is scientific notation. All right, so in scientific notation, you have b to the x. So if you have 3 to the 4th, so on the 3 to the 4th, the 4 is called your exponent, and the 3 is called your base. And the exponent tells you how many times you multiply the base by itself. So this is the same thing as 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and if you multiply that together, you get 81. we're going to multiply these and compare the values. So if you take 42.3 times 10, you get 423. 423 times 10 to the exponent of 2. All right, so I have 42.3 times 10. I need to raise this to the second power. So there's two ways to do it. This upside down V right here is your caret key. You use that and put your 2 in, and that tells you what the exponent is. So that number is 4230. Oh, getting kind of the same number. I have an extra 0. The next one is the same problem, but it has an exponent of 3. So on most of the calculators, there's this keypad right here. So if you only want to make one change, you can arrow up, and mine will let me go in and just change whatever digits. So you can easily change that exponent of 2 to a 3, hit equals, and you get 42,300. If you wanted to start from scratch, you're taking 42.3 times 10 raised to the 4th power. So I'm going to hit the caret key and a 4, and I get more zeros. All right, so when I multiplied by 10, I got 423, so it basically moved the decimal one place to the right. When I had that times 10 to the second, it took the original number and it moved it 2 places to the right. When I multiplied it by 10 to the third, I ended up with a number 3 places to the right. So the pattern seems to be, for each power of 10, you multiply by, move the decimal 1 place to the right. A negative exponent is the same thing as a fraction. So this is the same thing as dividing by 10. All right, so now I'm going to take 42.3 times 10 to the exponent of -1. So I'm going to hit my caret key, and then I'm going to put in a -1. On my calculator, my negative sign is here below the 3. You have to make sure that you don't use the subtraction sign. That'll give you some kind of an error. You have to find the negative sign on your calculator. There you go. That's what mine looks like. You hit enter, and you get 4.23. I'm going to use my arrow pad. I'm going to go up, and I'm going to arrow over, and I'm going to change that 1 to a 2. Hit the enter button, and I have 0.423. Go change that 2 to a 3, and you get 0.0423. And I bet this one's going to have 2 zeros. Go change that 3 to a 4, and voila, I get 0.00423. So it just kept taking my original number, and it kept moving 1 decimal place to the left. Did I do that? I did not do that. And if we need to cover number 15, we'll do it in class. Have a good one.